Hello, David.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Hey,
I guess
hey,
camera's
David.
on, right? Hello.
Hello. I'll give everybody a minute, just make sure they're tuning in here. We're also recording, just so we're all aware, just for posterity's sake here for ITE. And I'll just start with a review of this. So we're in a breakout room for team building for performance and high performance teams. And for a long time, of course, we're all aware there's been a lot of discussion regarding building and sustaining high performance teams. So we're here to just explore our perspectives on that. And I thought it would be fun to make sure that we're sharing what our organizations do, questions that we might have, obstacles that we might have. I've got a list of questions to kind of, walk us through a dialogue on that. But I did want to start by asking for a volunteer. If someone could take some real high level notes and give a 5-minute spiel on kind of what we talked about back to the group when we end our breakout room. So if I could get a volunteer, or I'll pick one if I don't get a volunteer. All right, so no volunteers, but I'm gonna go ahead and take someone who is not brave enough to put their camera on. So how about that, Anthony? Anthony Gasorio, you there? No answer. All right. How about Steve Arose?
Uh-oh. Yeah, okay.
All right, we can do it, Steve. I'll help you too. I'll take a little bit of notes and I'll help. That's my job.
All right.
If I have to.
All right. So, this is definitely meant for us to have fun and kind of share. So no pressure situation, but you just take some high level notes and we'll start the discussion here. So, team building for performance, again, it's been a hot topic. There's been a lot of people kind of talking, on TED Talks. Simon Sinek, we all might be familiar with, a great kind of motivational speaker about building high performance teams, and lots of discussion on it. But I thought we'd just kind of all start by, talking about what we think a high performance team. It might look different in different types of organizations. I would start with myself at a firm with 250 people. High performance teams for us are, highly motivated people that are kind of all focused on a goal, working together collaboratively, and really getting things done. We're a consulting firm, so we're doing work for our best work for our clients, and would love to hear a little bit from the group about kind of what they think a high performance team is.
I can add, I think it's also like sharing the common values. The keynote speaker just talked about like changing communities. So making sure that you're all sharing that kind of value of impacting and improving communities.
Yeah. Great. That is actually, with my company, we have 4 pillars, and that's one of our 4 pillars. And the community kind of creates an alignment within our group, within our company, and within our teams to kind of focus on stuff that's maybe outside of work, right? So community is always important. So what do we all think are kind of the most important qualities that high performance teams possess?
This is Michael. One of the things that I think high performing teams have is strong kind of peer-to-peer accountability. The accountability on a really high performing team isn't top down. It's the team members holding each other accountable to do the things that need to be done, and delivering on the goals. But it's very much peer-to-peer. We're all on this together type of attitude.
Yeah. how do you guys, what does your company do to try and hold to accountability?
That's probably the number one question, right? Is accountability. I kind of hate the word actually because it gets thrown around so much, but you can't just come in and wave a wand and say, okay, everybody be accountable now. It has to come from that shared values. It has to come from, a shared vision that we all have this shared goals. I think some common culture, you can have high performers in a culture that's very cutthroat, lots of, you think of a sales culture that's entirely incentivized by commission, right? It's all about just, the kind of the lone wolf type of high performer. That they can be very much a high performer on one kind of team and one kind of firm, and they would be disastrous in another, right? And versus, if you've got a culture that's very much, it's all about the team, it's very egalitarian in that sense, a high performer in that group might look totally different than in the other. And so having a team of people that fits the culture of the organization is critical. But that takes a long time to build, right? So culture, vision, values, I think is where that kind of peer-to-peer accountability comes from.
Great. So anybody else thoughts on, qualities, really important qualities for high performing teams from your standpoint?
I think it varies between companies in size of the company and location of the companies, and the type of business of the approach to the company. Like I would say, there are some companies, large companies out there. They're publicly owned company. Their accountabilities bring every penny counts. Where smaller companies, like Michael said, is more about the culture, the people basically. It's not the profit of the company that's on the top. It's really building the people, building the community. Our goal is to really engage our staff, but also to maintain their staff in the company forever, really. And that will help us to attract new talents too as well. So I'm at a small DBESB company in California, so that's kind of like our culture's really, and I came from a larger company, so once my company was privately, they sold to a public owned company, the culture changed from one day to another. And my personal view too changed because that wasn't my cup of tea at that point. My cup of tea is I want to be with a company that has a culture, a value, a mission, not only to the community, but also to your employees.
Yeah. And, I think companies, private companies have a little bit more opportunity to do that effectively, just define what their values are. I would be interested, is there anybody on the call from an organization, an agency that could kind of speak to what they might do in terms of establishing culture? Or are we all consultants on here? Which would make sense. We're a consultants council, but all were invited. I would just add to that. I mean, I came from Virginia Department of Transportation, where, there was definitely a mission statement, but the values weren't necessarily consistent across that organization. And I was, very energized when leaving, going to a smaller company, that it was just, the vision is there, it's communicated consistently. And so I think that really, provides that purpose for helping high performance teams as well.
Similarly, David, this is Steve. I recently left the Arizona Department of Transportation with similar big vision, big goals, we're people focused, we're building people. It just was rough communicating it down through 3,500 people to really make it a culture. So totally understand that. And I don't know how many other people are in bigger consulting firms The one I'm with now is about 50, 60 people, so we're fairly small. But from what I've seen, the vision, the people focus is much easier to communicate through, and it is the culture that really drives the high performing teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I may add a couple of things. So, I agree with everything that's been said. I feel that the culture piece and, some of the things that Michael, you mentioned, the vision, the goals are so important. It's almost like you really need to step back from that individual thinking, right? I mean, you're successful because your team is successful. There needs to be that, the trust element there where that everybody is there on the same page. I feel the goals and objectives need to be clearly conveyed as well, so that again, it's like having everyone on the same page. But I think there's also at the end of the day a feeling of recognition or appreciation. Like everybody also should feel, again, you're talking of, one mindset, one set of thoughts, one objective. And, you don't want to feel like, well, someone else got the credit, but I pulled in more here, and that sort of a thing. So I think it's kind of having that all around culture and feeling comfortable and making employees comfortable.
Yeah, thanks, Amir. I mean, that resonates with me. I've been, doing a lot of reading in this area, and I found myself drawn to this concept of trust and building trust in teams. So that resonates with me. I actually read a book recently. It's called Debrief to Win by Robert Teschner, and the concept that he has is, debriefs don't need to be negative; they should be positive. In the, I think it was a fighter pilot team, they would practice, and after every mission, they come back and debrief. And what they built was trust, because each member would identify kind of what they might have done to, they feel, allow themselves to be vulnerable, show what they've done to maybe where they need improvement. But it creates this environment of trust where if they feel like they're, part of a team working together, trusting each other, then that helps them get better and better and be open to improving as well. So I highly recommend the book. We actually had him come in and speak to our company and energize some of our leaders. So I would definitely recommend that to y'all. Yeah.
David, I think one thing is that you have to have people that want to work together on a team. Some of our companies that grow like ours we have 38 offices now and some 500 employees, but we had a problem with silos and how we get teams together and really be able to do larger projects rather than just 38 smaller projects. So as you can see from my background, and actually I picked up this from Michael where we were selling one ITE, I said one Neil Schaefer. So that's what we've been trying to sell, and it's worked out pretty well as long as we continue to focus on that.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. And I've worked at some really big companies in my past as well, over thousands of people. And I think that's an interesting concept. It's for those types of large companies, it's incredibly hard to work as one kind of team across an organization. So what kinds of things are companies doing to kind of collaborate across their whole company through divisions, maybe even regional offices? Anything interesting or innovative that people are doing?
One thing I was just going to say is that we operate the same as one company. And what that really helps with there's two sides to this. It really helps with if you have somebody with a specific skill in one office, they can help support projects in other offices, but making sure that those teams are accepting and clearly explaining the task and the expectations to that team member. One thing, to answer the question you were just asking, was one thing is that we do have every 2 weeks, regional directors and myself get on a call and talk about our workload and our needs in the regions. And so that there's a mechanism for sharing that work. If a region has too much work and doesn't have the capacity to support that work, then I call it the great negotiations. And we kind of negotiate and kind of figure out which projects can slide or if staff have capacity. And it's really reinforced that one company feel, and that people feel like they can come with this need and ask, and we'll work together to solve it.
Yeah, that's great, Michelle. We do the same thing. Although I feel like I'm able to, because we have 250 people, not thousands of people. And I've always been kind of interested how you could do that across a big organization. How would a really big company do that? So
yeah, we're the same size. So,
and this is bit accurate. Being with Kimley Horn, I just echo what those same philosophies you just said. But we're 5,000. So the one company, the one team, no barriers between offices. It starts at the weekly office to more of a regional group across the whole country. And that our teams are made up of folks across multiple offices that are all working together too. So that those relationships beyond just one office breaks through silos and everything else. And it's a philosophy that we work as one company. And as the culture and philosophy is established, as one has continued to grow, because I've been with Kimley Horn growing from just under 300 people to 5,000, the maintaining of the culture and bringing new individuals on and trying to have them all experience that. And when COVID hit, that was a real test of how do we move from real offices to a virtual environment and maintain all that teamwork and high performance team in a virtual environment. And that was the real test of a lot of these philosophies that served us well through that whole year plus, and then slowly integration back to our environment. But as you've heard, all the things about the culture, the common vision, the common goals, the reason we come to work every day is to serve our clients. And how do we best do that? Bring the best talent. And if it's not in our company, who do we team with to bring those resources to solve problems? So it's not just only a small firm, but we tend to say at times that we want to operate like a small firm, but yet realize we have large amounts of resources to bear on larger projects. So it doesn't mean it's perfect, but we are really looking at our high performance teams being respectful of what is now the diversity and inclusion of all backgrounds and understanding, realizing that when you bring diversity to a team, you end up with better results, that you're not creating just the same thoughts and not being creative in solutions. So I just thought I'd add a perspective, is that what's been said is all ways of getting there. It's just really the ongoing conversations, always with new staff and so on, of that culture of we're here as one.
Yeah. Thanks, Ken.
Hey, David.
Yeah, Don.
I'm with Farron Piers. Just one other thing to add, and I agree with all the previous statements, is we have a series of discipline groups within the company, different technical subjects and non-technical. And that's a way for people who are interested in, say, travel forecasting to have a group setting where they meet once a month, and we have conversations on our virtual pages and everything, and really is an opportunity to take advantage of skills throughout the company and different offices and bring them on board for various projects. And that's really worked well to create high performance teams that we can bring to our various clients.
So it allows them to collaborate in their skill set groups a little bit better across the company, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, people pose a question, I'm working on this project, and have you ever seen this? And then you have people weigh in based on their experiences. And I think it's really been very good for collaborative building. And it really brings, especially the more technical folks, it provides them maybe more of an opportunity to get involved in things that are going on within the company rather than other folks.
One of the things that specific things that we do, and we've always worked very much as part of virtual teams because we've got people spread out we're about an 80-person company with 4 offices, but a handful of employees that are out in satellite locations by themselves. And so always been very much kind of working amongst virtual teams that way. It obviously, accelerated during those last year and a half. But one thing we do is we bring everybody in the company, not just managers or people at a certain level, but everyone in the company. We shut the company down for 2 or 3 days and bring everyone to one location for a 2-day symposium where we do all sorts of team building and training and things, but mostly focused on pretty high level strategic stuff. But it's really about creating those face-to-face relationships with people that you might work with but never see face-to-face. And we found it makes the working in the virtual space so much easier when you have a personal face-to-face relationship with somebody. Now, I recognize that may get more challenging as we've gone from 50 to 60 to 80 people over the last couple of years. It's already getting more challenging. As we go to 100 or 200 people, that'll just get harder. But it's something that our staff really loves, and so I think it's going to be hard to give that up. And so maybe we won't. I don't know. That's one thing we do.
Yeah, that's great.
Michael, I'll just add, Kimley Horan, we do a kickoff meeting each January where everybody in each of our regions all travel to a central location for face-to-face. So just take yours and it grows, and then you divide it up into multiple regions and do the same, because the value we find is tremendous, like you explained.
Yeah, Ken, thanks for that, Ken. Just so everybody aware, we're wrapping up our time. I'm going to get bumped out of this room, but you guys sit tight, and you're going to move on to the next topic. And Steve.